Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're absolutely diving deep into the Formula One career of Gerhard Berger.
Yes, Gerhard Berger, a name that really resonates, especially if you followed F1 through the power and the noise of the late 80s and 90s.
Exactly. For you F1 enthusiasts out there, we've really tried to pull together the story of his impressive, 14 seasons?
14 seasons, yeah.
Oh.
From 1984 right through to 1997.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that era. Massive turbo engines, legendary drivers, safety standards constantly changing. It's quite a journey.
It really is. We'll be exploring his time with various teams, those big wins, his relationships in the paddock, and the mark he definitely left on Formula One.
Our goal here is really to unpack those key moments, the highs, the lows, the insights from his career, give you a comprehensive but hopefully engaging look.
So let's start at the beginning. Where did it all kick off for him?
Well, he was born in Würgl, Austria, back in 1959. And like a lot of top drivers, he cut his teeth in the junior formulas. He was winning races in European Formula 3, showing that early promise.
Okay, and then the F1 debut came in '84 with ATS.
That's right, ATS. Now, they were, let's say, facing some financial difficulties. It was actually the last season. Berger kind of stepped in partway through.
And he managed a 6th place at Monza, right? But famously didn't get points.
Exactly, which is, well, unusual. Because he was in a second car, sort of an extra entry that wasn't eligible for points, still, finishing 6th in that situation definitely showed something. Flash of talent.
Definitely hinted at the speed. But what happened right after that season is just incredible, the road accident.
Oh, yeah. Near fatal. He was actually thrown from his BMW after being hit. Honestly, surviving that was one thing, but the fact that spinal surgeons were apparently nearby and helped immediately, that was just sheer luck and absolutely critical for his recovery.
Utterly amazing. To come back from a broken neck, damaged vertebrae, and be on the grid for Arrows in 1985, that takes serious grit.
Incredible determination.
Yeah.
Now, the 85 Arrows, it had that powerful BMW engine, the M12 Turbo, a beast of an engine.
But the chassis maybe wasn't quite there to match it. Classic F1 story.
Pretty much, yeah. The Arrow's A8 chassis, it limited what Berger and his teammate Thierry Boutsen could really do with all that BMW power.
Still, he managed to score his first F1 points towards the end of that season.
He did, yeah. The last 2 races, South Africa and Australia. Maybe small results on paper, but, crucial first points on the board. Building blocks.
And that clearly gave him some momentum because 86 saw the move to Benetton. That felt like a proper step up, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Benetton was an ambitious team, also using those BMW engines. The B186 car gave him a real platform.
And he delivered, getting Benetton their very first Grand Prix win.
In Mexico, yeah.
Yeah.
A massive moment for the team, and obviously a huge breakthrough for Berger himself. Showed he could win at this level.
He nearly won his home race too, didn't he? Austria. Something went wrong.
Leading comfortably and then guttingly a flat battery stopped him. That must have hurt.
But his speed was undeniable. That Monza speed trap figure from '86, it's legendary.
Isn't it just? 218.23 miles per hour. Still the fastest official speed from that whole first turbo era. Just shows the raw power they were dealing with and his confidence using it.
He was doing other things too, like touring cars, won the Spa 24 Hours.
Yeah, he won Spa in '85 with Roberto Ravaglia and Mark Schur in a BMW 635, showed his versatility. He even needed special permission to race a Group A car in Australia in '85 during the GP weekend.
So even with some reliability hiccups like that battery, he was clearly marking himself out-qualifying his teammate Teo Fabi consistently.
Yeah, and that Mexico win really put him on the map. It paved the way for the big move, didn't it? Ferrari for 1987.
Ferrari, joining the Scuderia. That's the dream, surely. He partnered Mikel Alboreto there. How did that start?
Well, the first part in '87 was a bit tough. Mechanical failures, reliability wasn't great initially.
I came good later in the season.
It really did. After the German Grand Prix, they seemed to get a handle on the car's understeer issues. Berger suddenly became a consistent frontrunner. You could argue he might have won a few races before the end, like San Marino, Hungary, Portugal.
What stopped him?
Various things. A spin while battling Prost in Portugal, for instance. But he absolutely nailed the end of the season.
The final 2 races.
Wins in both.
Yeah.
Japan and Australia. Pole positions in both, too. And fastest lap in Australia. That was Ferrari's first back-to-back win since, 1981? A big deal.
And he out-qualified Alboreto over the season, too. Really established himself within the team. Expectations must have been high for '88.
They were, but then McLaren happened.
The MP44.
Ah, yes. the Senna's domination year.
Pretty much. They won 15 out of 16 races. Just unbelievable dominance.
But Berger got the one they didn't win.
He did. Monza. A hugely emotional win for Ferrari, coming just weeks after Enzo Ferrari himself had passed away. A really special victory under the circumstances.
He got a pole that year, too. The only non-McLaren pole. Yep. Silverstone in the wet again showed his speed. But the big problem for Ferrari that year was fuel consumption. The Honda engine in the McLaren was just way more efficient.
I remember hearing stories about him having to basically coast to the finish sometimes.
Absolutely. That wet British GP you mentioned, he started from pole, built a massive lead, then had to slow right down and ran out of fuel practically on the last lap. So frustrating.
And then leading again in Adelaide, the final race.
And got tangled up lapping René Arnoux. Just one of those things. Bad luck, maybe a lapse in concentration when lapping.
But still, getting that win and that pole against the McLaren tire was impressive. And he hammered Alboreto in qualifying, didn't he?
Completely. Outqualified him in all 16 races. That's a statement, no matter the car.
So 1989, Nigel Mansell arrives as his teammate, and Ferrari brings out this radical new car, the 640.
Right, the car designed by John Barnard, famous for that semi-automatic paddle shift gearbox. Revolutionary stuff for F1 at the time.
The Fragile.
Very fragile initially, fast when it ran, but lots of teething problems.
Yeah.
And 89 was also the year of Berger's massive accident at Imola.
Tamburello corner. That looked horrific.
Terrifying. Hit the wall at something like 180 mph. Car bursts into flames instantly. It was a miracle he escaped with relatively minor injuries, burns, cracked ribs.
And he came back so quickly, missed only one race, Monaco.
Astonishing. He actually credited the paddle shift gearbox, saying it was less physically demanding and helped his recovery. Less arm work needed compared to a traditional gear stick.
It's quite chilling, isn't it, that after that crash, he and Senna apparently went to look at the Tamburello wall and talked about safety there.
Yeah, knowing what happened later, it does send a shiver down your spine. Despite the crash and the car's reliability, he did manage some strong results later in 89.
A win in Portugal.
Yes, a really good win in Portugal, plus second in Italy, second in Spain. It salvaged the year to some extent. But by then, the big news was out.
He was off to McLaren for 1990 to partner Ayrton Senna.
Exactly. The dream team, many called it. Two incredibly fast drivers in the benchmark car. The hype was immense.
How did that dynamic work out? Did he challenge Senna?
He definitely pushed Senna, especially in qualifying. Got pole in his very first race for McLaren Phoenix 1990, outqualified Ayrton 8 times over their 3 years together. That's impressive against Senna.
But in the races?
Senna generally had the edge in race consistency and, well, maybe that final tenth of ruthlessness. Berger definitely contributed massively, though McLaren won the Constructors' title in 90 and 91.
And he got wins himself.
3 wins, yeah. Japan, 91, which Senna famously gifted him on the last lap. And then 2 great wins on merit in 92, Canada and Australia.
I heard he struggled a bit with the cockpit fit initially.
Apparently so. The car was quite tightly packaged around Senna and Prost before him, who were both smaller. Berger needed a bit more space.
And there was that penalty in Canada 90 that cost him a win.
Yeah, a 1-minute penalty for jumping the start, I think it was. Controversial at the time. Cost him the victory. One of those things.
But what everyone remembers from that McLaren era is the relationship with Senna. The pranks.
Oh, legendary stuff. It sounds like Berger was often the instigator, maybe with Ron Dennis turning a blind eye or even quietly encouraging it.
The stories are incredible. Throwing Senna's briefcase out of a helicopter.
Setting off a fire extinguisher in his hotel room.
Putting frogs in his bed.
Replacing his passport photo with, let's just say, a less flattering image.
Senna gluing his credit cards together. It sounds like they had a really genuine, deep friendship underneath all the practical jokes.
Absolutely. Huge mutual respect. And that nickname the mechanics gave him, Gerhard. Apparently because he was maybe a little tough on the gearboxes sometimes.
It says a lot that he remained close to the Senna family after Ayrton's death, even mentoring Bruno Senna later.
Definitely. A strong bond. But after 3 seasons at McLaren, he made a move that surprised some people. Back to Ferrari for 1993.
Back to Maranello. But this time, Ferrari wasn't quite the force they had been, right? The car, the F93A.
Yeah, it was widely seen as uncompetitive. A big step down from the McLaren he'd just left. They introduced active suspension, which made the handling quite, well, unpredictable.
No wins that year.
No wins for Ferrari in 93. Berger's best was a 3rd place in Hungary. He had a few moments, like trying a very ambitious move on Damon Hill in Monaco, showed his fighting spirit. but ended in retirement.
Then came 1994, an incredibly difficult year for the whole sport.
Absolutely devastating. The deaths of Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna at Imola cast a huge shadow over everything. For Berger, losing Senna, his close friend and former teammate, must have been immensely painful.
Yet, amidst all that grief, he managed to win later that year.
He did, a hugely emotional victory at Hockenheim. It was Ferrari's first win since 1990, a long drought. A very significant moment for him and the team.
He got poles that year, too, and almost won the last race.
2 poles, yeah. And he was leading in Adelaide, the final race,
Yeah.
but made a mistake near the end, letting Nigel Mansell through for the win.
And importantly, he was involved in reviving the GPDA that year, wasn't he?
Yes, the Grand Prix Drivers Association. After the events at Imola, there was a real push to strengthen the drivers' collective voice on safety, and Berger was a key figure in getting it properly reestablished. Showed real leadership.
He stayed with Ferrari for 95, his final year there. More podiums, but no wins.
That's right, several podiums. Showed some great racecraft, though. Those passes in Canada and Hockenheim were brilliant, even with a penalty in Germany.
And that bizarre retirement at Monza.
Oh, yeah. Jean Alesi's onboard camera fell off, hit Berger's suspension, and took him out of the race. Just one of those freak F1 moments you can't believe happened.
A strange way to end his second Ferrari spell. And then it was another swap, wasn't it? Traded to Benetton for Michael Schumacher.
Exactly. Schumacher went to Ferrari, Berger went back to Benetton for 1996, back to where he got his first win 10 years earlier.
But Benetton had changed a lot. The Schumacher era meant the car was very specific to Michael's style.
It seemed that way. The B196 didn't immediately suit Berger's driving style as well. He struggled a bit to adapt initially.
Came close to winning in Germany, though.
Agonizingly close, leading towards the end, looked set for the win, and then the engine let go. Heartbreaking for him.
By this stage, 96, he was one of the real veterans on the grid, wasn't he?
Yeah, him and Martin Brundle were basically the only guys still racing who'd also been there in the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
Showed incredible longevity in a tough sport.
He made a move at Suzuka that year that helped Ferrari.
That's right, a pretty aggressive pass on Eddie Irvine, who was in the Ferrari. It actually helped Ferrari secure second in the Constructors' Championship that year over Benetton. A bit ironic.
Then 1997, his final season, still with Benetton. The car seemed better.
It did seem a bit more suited to him, yeah. He scored points early on, but then he had a really rough patch, personally.
Illness, and then the terrible news about his father.
Yeah, he missed several races due to sinus problems requiring surgery, and then tragically his father died in a light aircraft crash. Just an incredibly difficult period for him.
But he came back. And how?
Amazingly resilient. Returned for the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim, and put in arguably one of the drives of his career.
Pole position, fastest lap, led every lap, won the race.
Completely dominant performance. And he dedicated that victory to his late father. It was at that same weekend he announced he'd be retiring from F1 at the end of the season.
A fitting way to score his final win. He turned down a drive for 98, didn't he?
He did. Apparently Sauber offered him a seat, but he wasn't keen on the new regulations coming in, particularly the grooved tires. He decided it was the right time to stop.
So that was it for his driving career. 210 starts, 10 wins, 48 podiums, 12 poles, 21 fastest laps. A really solid record across a long career.
Definitely. But his involvement in F1 and motorsport was far from over.
He moved into management? BMW?
Yep, became BMW's competitions director. Oversaw their return to F1, initially as an engine supplier to Williams, which was very successful. And later, when they formed their own team, he was instrumental there.
He drove the first F1 lap in Shanghai, too.
He did. Nice little bit of history. And who could forget his time as co-owner of Toro Rosso?
From 2006 to 2008. And they got that famous win with Vettel.
At Monza in 2008 in the wet. An incredible achievement for that team, and Berger was a key part of making it happen. His connection with Red Bull was important there, too.
He was actually the first driver Red Bull ever sponsored, wasn't he? Way back.
That's right. And that relationship eventually led to him taking a 50% stake in Toro Rosso after Red Bull bought into his family's logistics company. Quite interconnected.
He also had roles with the FIA, and now he's involved with the DTM.
Yeah, president of the FIA Single-Seat Commission for a while, and he's been chairman of ITR, the DTM promoter, since 2017. He stayed very active in the sport.
So looking back at his driving career stats, 10 wins, 48 podiums.
Helped McLaren win constructors' titles in 90-91.
Yeah.
Helped Benetton finish third in 96-97. He definitely contributed.
How is he generally remembered as a driver? Known for speed, maybe some inconsistency.
I think that's fair. Blindingly fast, especially in qualifying. Maybe sometimes lack that ultimate Senna-like consistency over a race, or made the odd mistake under pressure.
Yeah.
But undeniably quick.
A really solid, fast driver and a very competitive era, a fierce competitor, and obviously a huge character in the paddock, the prankster.
Definitely remembered for that, too. He brought a lot of personality. Winning with Benetton, Ferrari, and McLaren, not many drivers achieve victories with three such iconic different teams. That says a lot.
Okay, so wrapping this up, Gerhard Berger's F1 journey, it was a real roller coaster, wasn't it? Amazing speed, those big wins with iconic teams, but also real setbacks, serious accidents, moments of bad luck.
Absolutely. From surviving that road crash early on to the Imola incident, the wins, the near misses, the Ferrari highs and lows, the McLaren years with Senna, those legendary pranks, he packed a lot into those 14 seasons.
He really did navigate a fascinating period of F1. Huge technical changes, massive personalities on track. He raced against Senna, Prost, Piquet, Mansell, Schumacher, all the legends.
And held his own, won races against them, adapted to different cars, different eras of engine. Winning in the turbo era and the normally aspirated era that followed, it shows real skill and adaptability.
So for you listening, especially if you love your F1 history, we hope this deep dive has given you a maybe fuller picture of Gerhard Berger's place in the sport. He was more than just a driver. He was a winner, a character, a key part of a golden era.
Yeah, and it leaves you with a thought, doesn't it? Considering his talent, driving for Ferrari, McLaren, Benetton, with maybe just a little more luck, fewer mechanical issues, maybe avoiding one or two of those incidents, what more could he have achieved? Could he have challenged for a title? It's interesting to ponder.
It really is. So what do you think? We'd love to hear your thoughts, your favorite Gerhard Berger memories. Drop them in the comments and let us know, are there other F1 careers from that era you'd like us to take a deep dive into next time?